Okay. Klokken slagen, som man sier på norsk. They're all participants, audience here at the House of Literature in Oslo, and as well the audience participating digitally. On behalf of the Norwegian Uigurkomiteen and PEN Norway, I welcome you all to this program. The 4th of February 2019, PEN Norway, together with the Norwegian Uigurkomiteen and the Rafta Foundation, organized the program China's Attack on the Uyghurs. In 2019, the persecution and attacks on Uyghurs, their culture and lifestyle by the Chinese government was still news to some people, and that millions of Uyghurs were interned in detention camps, imprisoned and tortured. The president of the World Uyghur Congress, Dolkun Isa, participated in our program. A couple of weeks ago, he was back in Oslo after 3 years to meet with Norwegian politicians, press and civil society. He could tell us that nothing has improved for the Uyghurs in China these past years, rather the opposite. It has become worse. Abduweli Ayup is a linguist and a poet who operated Uyghur language schools in Xinjiang, in the northwest part of China. For his work, he was arrested and spent more than a year in different Chinese prisons, harassed, tortured, and humiliated. Abduweli came to Bergen as the city's guest writer. He will give us a speech about the situation for the Uyghurs today and also give a brief outline of a big project he has been working on the last couple of years, documenting the imprisoned, killed, and disappeared Uyghur intellectuals. Weli, your floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Abduweli. Let me start with the Uyghur intellectuals who got arrested since 2016 till today. And the first one, it's not short. Yes. Ahtem Umer. He got arrested in 2017, and he sentenced 20 years. And yeah, depending on the documentation, we have 128 writers and a poet who got arrested since 2016 till now. And this is Abdulkadir Jalaluddin. He's one of my good friend, and I still remember that when I released from the jail, I saw him after a few days, and we held it tightly in front of regional Communist Party building. So it's very sad to see him again. And Yalkon, Rosie, we have, yes, this gentleman, he sentenced 16 years. And let me briefly talk about the three of them, because there are too many. Yes, he is Ghairachan Osman, one of my master advisor. And Waichan Osman, he was the we had the Uyghur textbook from primary school, first grade to high school, 12th grade in China, 11th grade in China, high education is 11 years. And he compiled the textbook for about 30 copies, and he got arrested in 2016 and sentenced 16 years. And this gentleman, I want to talk because I grew up to read his novels, and he wrote the novels about Uyghur life, especially in Kashgar. And if you read his novels, you can like feel that smell. You can feel that flavor of Uyghur life, especially like in ancient cities like Kashgar. And he arrested first time in 1958, the first time, because at that time the first mass arrest happened after Chinese communist rule. And he got arrested there and sentenced 20 years. And he released 1978. And then he got arrested in 2017 again and sentenced 10 years. And he died in detention, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this lady. Today I want to especially talk about her because she arrested first time in 2016 and then released after a month. And she wrote about women's jail. And it's like until now I have seen the first detailed poetry about women's jail. And like from her poetry, we can see how female experience there and how they feel and how they expect freedom. We can see from her poetry. And another thing that I want to talk, because she sent her poetry out. I have her 6 poetry she wrote in detention, and she tried to send them out. So, and she, in her poetry, she told us that she was in journey. She doesn't know where it started and where it will end. Like I still keep her poetry, and I start to translate some of them. And it's really important because she told us from inside, and she told us her expectation, and she told us her wish to be released. And we couldn't save the one former sentenced 10 years, Haji Mirzaid Karimi. He died in detention. And I hope her poetry is the final call for all of us that we need to take action and we need to save her. We can write to Chinese government. We can try to write to Chinese embassy in Norway, and we can send Uyghur, Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, government, and we need to do something to save her and ask her out. And she's a personal friend of me. I haven't mentioned this for a long time because it is dangerous for the people who are inside. Like if we say that she's my personal friend, that we feel that maybe she faced more hard life there. We didn't mention, but she's my personal friend, and she started to write 1001 Night. There is a Arabic fairy tale, 1001 Night. Yes, it is. And she started to write 1000 because she just feel that she is the lady who keep telling the story. Like, if she keep telling the story, she will die. But she told the story just 353. And then she got arrested. She got arrested in 2018, December. So she couldn't finish her 1001 Night. Even the lady in the history, like 11th century in Middle East, she survives it through telling the story, but she couldn't make it. She couldn't survive. She couldn't save herself through telling the story, through the literature. But I can do it, and we can do it. All of us can do it. At least we can try. Thank you.
Thank you, Weli. And of course, you are absolutely right. Literature is fundamental for these poets. And Gulnisa Yimin, if we can, PEN International and PEN Norway and all the other PEN centers, of course we would campaign for her. Absolutely. If you can translate her poetry for us, yeah, of course. We got a deal. Today we are here to meet Jewher Tohti, the daughter of Ilham Tohti. Ilham Tohti is a Uyghur economist, writer, and professor who worked to promote understanding between Uyghurs and Han Chinese. After being prevented from leaving the country in 2013, his formal detention came in February 2014, and Tohti was charged with separatism and held incommunicado under inhumane treatments for months before he could meet his lawyer. On September 23rd, 2014, he was found guilty of separatism and is currently serving a life sentence. He has been incarcerated incommunicado since 2017 with no access to his family or his lawyers. Ilham Tohti is an honorary member of PEN Norway. His daughter, Jewher Tohti, has been campaigning for her father for years. We are honored to have her here with us today. To lead the conversation with you, we have Harald Bøckmann. He has been studying and researching China for over 50 years. He is an expert on China and is also a member of PEN Norway's China Committee. Please take the floor, Harald and Jewher.
Well, it's an honor for us to have you here. It's the first time, right?
Yes, this is my first time here.
And now, Hege did give us some basic background about your father, and that's why we are here. And we will come back to that, but maybe you could give yourself, or give us, some background to you. Sure. When was the last time you saw your father? Was at the Beijing airport in 2007? 2013. Yeah. Could you tell us a little about?
Sure. The last time I saw my father, Ilham Tohti, was on February 2nd, 2013. I remember every date very clearly. February 2nd, 2013 at Beijing International Airport was my last time. I saw my father. Was also the last time I was ever with my family. Since then, I haven't been back, and for over 9 years, I've been living in the United States alone, which is on the other side of the world from my family members. The last time as earlier mentioned, the last time I heard a word from my father was 2017. After me saying the goodbye with my father at the airport, he was put under house arrest for about almost about 11 months on and off house arrests. And in 2014, January 15th, he was officially taken away from our home in Beijing. And that was the last time. The day before that was my last time speaking with my father, because during February 2nd until the next year, January 15th, I was speaking with my father on Skype almost every single day, at least 3 times a day. From talking about if I have made any friends from school, what English grammar I learned in school, to what I had for lunch, whether if it's fries again, or if it's fries again, or French fries again.
So the old educator, he kept on.
Yes, and he would care about every little details, because he was not there physically for me. He felt very bad. He felt very guilty, and he thought it was his fault that I had to be put in that situation alone as a teenager in America, not having any family members with me, having to learn a new language from scratch, having to start a new life all of a sudden by myself.
But he was the one who, at this situation in Beijing airport, told you to go, wasn't it?
Yes, he felt bad, but at the same time, I know he never regretted his decision.
Yeah.
He forced me to leave, even though I said no 10 times at the airport. I said no 10 times, and that was he's always been pretty, pushy as a father. Yeah. But that, I think
we tend to become a little pushy.
But that was I think that was the best decision he had ever made for me, and I'm still very grateful for that life choice that he had made for me. And without that life choice, I wouldn't have made it, here, and nobody from my family members would ever be able to speak up on my father's case or on the Uyghur case in general. It would have been impossible.
But you were living in Beijing. He was arrested in Beijing finally, but then he was removed moved to
He was transferred
Urumqi.
Yes, he was transferred to Urumqi, which is illegal of the Chinese government. It's not like that the Chinese government likes doing anything legal, but that's one of the very first action that they did. First, they arrested my father without an arrest warrant. They confiscated everything. They did not release any notification of my father after they arrested my father. He disappeared until May, until I testified before the Congress saying, "Where is my father?" Then within a few days, they released notice that, "Oh, we have transferred him to Urumqi," which was shocking to me, because my father's residence paper belongs to Beijing, and legally, according to Chinese law, no matter what crime or what are you sentenced or what you are accused for, it's just like if you have committed a crime in this country, but if you're a citizen of Canada, you're going to be sent back to your country to go through a trial there. And it's the same case in China. If you are a resident of Beijing, you're supposed to go to prison or get charged or go through a trial in Beijing. But he was sent back to Urumqi. He was not even a citizen, a resident, where he was not born in Urumqi at the first place. So if he was sent back to Atush, that would be understandable, but he was sent to Urumqi. And now according to my last knowledge of my father's whereabouts, he was in Urumqi first prison, but since 2017, we don't know what had happened to him. We don't know if he has been transferred to another prison or to a camp or to a factory, or if he is even alive. We have no idea.
But then the international attention about his case started to really unfold, and you were certainly instrumental in telling the story.
I did not give up on any chance.
No, but he has been it's like a traveling, receiving one award after the other. Can you tell a little about that?
Working to get him awarded, working to set up meetings to get him to known to people. 9 years ago, can you believe that? In Indiana University, where Central Eurasian Studies was one of the best in the country, or almost in the world.
Central Asian Studies.
Central Eurasian Studies, which they have the Uyghur language program. In that university, majority of the people that I have met have never heard of the Uyghurs. 9 years ago. Never heard of Muslims existed in China. And they were shocked. Really? But you don't look Chinese. I did not say I am Chinese. I said I will live there. I did not say I'm Chinese. I am Uyghur. What's Uyghur? I said, okay, the past 10 minutes I just wasted.
You had to start from scratch, right?
Yes. And so I would repeat this conversation. I'm not being exaggerated. Minimum 500 times. Minimum 500 times. And after the first year, started with that, with my broken English. And then slowly I learned English, and I got more educated. I also studied in Central Asian Studies department as well. That was one of my majors. I wanted to learn about my own culture and my own, homeland. And I learned Uyghur language at Indiana University as well. I did not speak Uyghur very well. Yes, I did not read, I did not write in Uyghur. I learned it all at Indiana University. Isn't that ironic? You have to learn that from another country. Because I did not have the opportunity to do that in Beijing. It was not allowed. So after 9 years, finally, when I got on Uber, when people say, where are you from? I am Uyghur. Huh? The Muslims who are persecuted in China. Oh, I know your people. So now after 9 years, people might not know from the pronunciation, but now they know what's happening to my people. And some of them already recognize by the pronunciation, but like in English, people butcher our people's names all the time, like Uigur all the time. So whenever I say the correct version, they think I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. But yeah, lots of people worked very hard on this, from Abduweli Ayup to, Muatar to Aduldan. Everyone, they have been working so hard, tirelessly, sacrificed all their time, free time and their social life, happiness, just to get our stories out. Not only my father's story, but all Uyghur's stories.
But somehow this is an interesting case, because I know you had to work hard on the grassroots, to get things, awareness.
Yes.
But at the same time, your father, he got international recognition very quickly, and so you turned out to be an ambassador. And that could you tell us a little about, because I read there's one award after the other.
Yes. So he was one of the very first Uyghur who was arrested, and he had a very high profile because he was known as the peaceful advocate. And he was advocating the opposite of what the Chinese government accused him of. And the Chinese government accused him of being someone who promoted violence, and who was a religious extremist, and who was a separatist.
Perhaps you can tell us what medium did he use for that?
So the Chinese government always accused him of being a criminal.
Yeah.
But criminals, what's the definition of criminal? Someone who used different kinds of weapons to harm someone, either by their force or by a weapon, or by different tools. First, my father did not harm anyone. He was protecting people. He was fixing a problem. Second, he did use a weapon, though, his pen, which is the PEN America, which I go everywhere. I said my father had only used 1 or 2 weapons. First, his pen. Second, his words, the spoken ones and the written ones. And what he was trying to do, he was not trying to attack. The weapon are used for two reasons: attacking and defending, to protecting. And the second one was what my father was using it for. He was trying to promote, protect, and defend our people, our people's dignity, our people's culture, our language, and our basic fundamental rights.
But he was also using the pen of today, not just that word, but the
Yes, he loved typing so much. I remember in one of the interviews I was asked, what picture do you envision when you think of your father? I said, I don't really envision some pictures, but I often reminds me of a sound. Whole night. Why do I hear it whole night? Because he would work in my room, at my desk, when I am sleeping in the bed. Why? Because I complained to him. I was like, you don't love me anymore. You don't spend time with me anymore. You just type in front of your laptop. You just focus on your work. And he moved his laptop to my room. And that's how he tried to fix the situation. Yeah. My dad is a fixer, you know. If there's a problem, he tries to fix it, right? It doesn't always work, but he tries. That's why, like, the typing, the sound, was most memorable for me, because I would wake up in the middle of the night, see him like a ghost, because of the light is like, you know, reflecting on his face. He would like texting like a zombie whole night. And then in the morning, I wake up going to go to school.
And what was he typing about? And how did he disseminate it?
I have no idea what he was typing.
But he did disseminate. He was a good, I mean, one of these, like old generations like us, we try to catch on to the new media.
I was not really allowed to touch laptops. He was afraid I would be addicted to getting into games or, you know, random things. He did get me an iPad, which I was not allowed to use. He got me a smartphone, which I was not allowed to use. And then he got me a laptop, which I was not allowed to use. So I was very bad at typing after coming here. And everybody was like, oh, didn't you have a laptop when you were in China? I was like, yeah, I had all of the tablets before any of the kids could have it. I was just not allowed to use it. But we spent, my father believed that, even though he's always addicted to like typing with his laptops, he believed that those kind of things are poisonous, and that I should spend more time talking and writing to people. And I don't do much of that nowadays, but I believe that's true.
So this kind of extremism which he was practicing was actually trying to disseminate understanding between Chinese and Uyghurs.
Well, he created the website called uighurbiz.com. The website was created for what? You know, most of you all know that one of the 4 countries that banned social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram in the world, one of them is China. People don't have access to free information. People cannot exchange ideas freely. And social media is like Weibo. In my generation, they used it, and I don't think the Gen Zs use that anymore. But everything is censored. You can't type and publish things freely. It will get censored out. I chat with my Chinese. I still have some Chinese friends back from middle school and high school. I chat with them on shopping app through the comment section, because the other sections other tools are so heavily censored. My father wanted to provide a platform where people can exchange ideas freely, and that was his website. And it has different languages. It was not only tailored for Uyghur people, it was also tailored for Han Chinese. He wanted to provide a platform for people to peacefully exchange their ideas. He even he only censors people when it involves extreme dirty language. That's the only time where he would censor people. He would delete those because it's, you know, affects people and in a negative way. But other than that, people are free to post, exchange, share, comment, in any formalities they want. He wanted to provide a free space for people. He believed, I was mentioning to someone earlier, that he believed all the hate in this world is because of lack of understanding. And he thinks, you know, how do people become friends? We get to know each other. And we get to know more about each other. That's how we become close to someone, or become lovers, become family, become friends, right? How are we strangers? We don't know anything about each other. That's how we define strangers. And that's how we create negative feelings. We don't feel comfortable with strangers. We feel comfortable with someone we know very well. And that's what he believed in. He thinks all the discrimination, all the disconnection, all the hate comes from not knowing enough about each other, not knowing the truth of each other, which the Chinese government did not help at all. The Chinese government, on state-backed media, on like public forums, you'll see oftentimes describing the Uyghurs as barbaric, backwards, uneducated thieves, lazy, and good entertainers. We're very good at dancing and singing. Well, some of us are very good, but that doesn't conclude that that cannot say we're only good at that. And when you say anything about positive of my people or of the region, it's about the food, about the landscape, not about the people. But is that all we have? Food and landscape and the dances and the beautiful girls? No. And that is why my father wanted to provide a platform where people can actually learn about who Uyghurs are, and Uyghurs can also learn about who the Han Chinese are. It is not what the Chinese government was trying to portray.
But do you remember that there was any positive feedbacks during his? One was his
positive feedback from who?
From Chinese, ethnic Chinese.
Government or people?
No, people.
Oh yes. Why did you think it created such an outrage in China when my father was arrested? It's because my father's website, of course, attracted lots of Han Chinese followers. And, for my father, lots of people started paying attention to his ideologies, to his work, to his researches. And that's why when my father was sentenced to life, before even that, in 2009 when he was arrested, house arrested, there were thousands of people signed petition to get him out of the house arrest.
Okay.
From Han Chinese people. And when he was arrested and detained and sentenced to life, there was an outrage on social media as well. Not everyone. There are, especially from the intellectual communities, there was an outrage. Why is that? It's because people, whoever knew about my father, knew he was not what the Chinese government was claiming who he was.
But you kind of picked up the torch, and can you tell us a little about that? You are now involved in an organization based in DC.
Yes. This is the talks like this is just my side thing. My full time. I do have a job, and people think I don't have a job. I do have a job, and I work at labor rights monitoring nonprofit organization. It's called Workers Rights Consortium. Workers Rights Consortium. We have we work on different sectors, different countries from Central America, from South America to Southeast Asia. We focus on different labor rights issues. And my position is to focus on labor rights issue in China, and we focus on Hong Kong and also the Uyghur region as well. So my father, actually, we also recently published his book, Uyghurs Have No Say. And
is it in English?
It's in English. It is available in Europe. My book is not available in Europe, but his book is available in Europe.
I have this book here. I guess I have to show it to you.
This one is not available in Europe. That's why I brought a few copies for whoever is interested in.
Because I have to, The Path to Survival, the Uyghur Struggle.
Yes.
And that was published by University of New Orleans.
New Orleans University is our publisher, yes.
2015, was it?
No, that's the first book. This one is the second book.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, my first book was Uyghurs Fight to Free Her Father. That was published in 2015. This one, I just published it 2 months ago. Yes.
So if you just Google her name, you'll...
Yes. It's not available in Europe, but if you're so dying to get it. If you want it so bad, you can still manage to find it by contacting me. I can send a copy to you. Or you can go to Amazon, switch the country to US, and you can order the ebooks. That you can do. Ebook is also cheaper than the paper one. But with my father's book, it's called We Uyghurs Have No Say. You will be able to get it on Verso Bookstore or several other bookstores. It is available to ship in in Europe because the publisher is based in UK. So in my father's book, back to the topic, in my father's book, he also, in that book, it's a collection of his, the past interview and articles that he had published, and it's a translation of his work, of his ideologies from this book. It's not a book that he wrote, but it's a collection of his ideologies and his work. A translation of his work, and you from reading this book, you will get a little sense of what kind of person my father is, and you will get a sense of what he was hoping for, like about 10 years ago. And he talked about the job market situation where the Uyghurs are in poverty because they were not given equal job opportunities. Even they can be graduating from prestigious universities, but just because of their ethnic background, just because of their ethnic identities, Uyghur people are not given jobs, even in our homeland. And it is already difficult for them to get a job in like cities like Shanghai or Beijing, or it's already very difficult. And imagine going back to your home, all your jobs are not, you are considered as secondary citizens or even third level citizens, and you're not allowed to get jobs, and because of the Chinese government doesn't like you.
But that has changed dramatically, because now you're forced to work. Right?
Now you're forced to work. You're given so many jobs that you can't even, so it's a different case now. So the reason that I pointed out my father's work is that if the Chinese government had really followed my father's suggestions like 10 years ago, you would be seeing a totally different picture nowadays with what is happening in the Uyghur region. And what is happening, whether we're talking about the re-education camps or concentration camps or prison camps or the forced labor factories, none of those would be happening. The Chinese government is doing completely opposite of what they should be doing. And now, besides locking up millions, and because of people's ethnic identities, because of their differences, because of their religious practices, now they're actually putting those camps into use. What do I mean by that? I was just explaining to you earlier that the Chinese government is not stupid, and they're not going to spend massive trillions of billions of dollars to keep locking up, over 1 million people or 2 million people in camps forever. They're not going to do that. But they still want to keep them locked up. They still want to keep control of them. How do they do that? They're not gonna waste their money on the backwards, barbaric Uyghur people like us. They're not gonna do that. So where are the money coming from? How do they maintain the existence of these camps? How do they make it sustainable? It's by putting Uyghur people into work. Sorry. From the satellite imageries, if you just simply go Google them, you'll see a lot of the camps. Right next to the detention facilities, you will see factories, huge, gigantic factories. The detainees are detained there throughout the night. During the day, they work over 10 hours, 12 hours, and then they go back to the factories. And some of them are not detained in those detention facilities, but they're still working in factories that strongly indicate forced labor. And they are participating in labor transfer programs, the ones who are not locked up in the Uyghur region. And there are also people who are working for multinational factories that belong to multinational corporations. For instance, I recently, just last year, I interviewed a family member of a detainee. Her cousin worked in a Nike factory. Nike. He worked in a factory that made Nike shoes. What he was working on. And also from the recent report released by Sheffield Hallam University, the laundering cotton report, for people who are interested in learning more about what brands maybe you should stop shopping from, please go visit that report. You will see a list of brands that are bad, that are really not supposed to be doing what they're doing now. A lot of brands, international brands, have been mentioned. I don't know any Norwegian brands. I'm not sure if there is. Maybe there is, maybe there is not. But there are lots of European brands, from Hugo Boss to Inditex, which is the parent company of Zara, have been mentioned in those. There's just down the street, there is one Hugo Boss and Zara, and I was so disturbed by living in a hotel that was across the street there. So I closed the curtain in the morning. Yes. It's very disturbing when I love shopping. I don't know if you can tell, but whenever I go travel, I try to shop. And I am very disturbed by the fact that my shopping choices have been limited because of corporations are choosing profits over human lives. Me as a consumer, my rights is being violated. My rights of choosing to shop ethical is violated by the corporations because of their poor choices. And that is why I wanted to, just in this room specifically today, I want to flag that doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what cultural background you're from, doesn't matter what your gender is, doesn't matter what religion you believe in. We all share that one common thing, two common things. First, we're all human beings, right? Second, doesn't matter you're rich or poor, we're all consumers. Doesn't matter if your monthly allowance, your monthly expense is like $10,000 or $500 or Norwegian money. We're all consumers. And what does that mean? That means that we all hold power over corporations. And there's a law recently was passed in the United States. It's called Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. It was just passed December 23rd of 2021, just like 5 months ago. And it's going to officially go into effect on June 21st which is, in a month. Wonderful, great. We worked so hard to get that law passed. And how did that law pass? Because consumers were concerned. Because people are concerned that their ethical choice are being, their rights to make ethical choice are being violated because of because how all the supply chains, how those Western companies are so complicit in Uyghur forced labor, the forced labor of my people. And that is why now with that law passed, that means any item that is from the Uyghur region is going to be banned from being imported into the US. What does that mean to Europe, though? What does that mean for Norway? That means EU is going to be officially becoming a dumping ground for Uyghur forced labor tainted goods. And we can't stop that. We can write to our local, your local governments. You can write to your, parliamentary members. You can write to your favorite brands. Doesn't matter if it's Hugo Boss or Zara. I'm not going to judge you on that. But you can write to them, tell them, urge them. This is not what you're going to lose me if you keep doing this bad thing. And you're going to lose all my family members, all my friends. We're not going to shop from you anymore. So consumer power really works. The reason that Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act passed, the reason that there are so many international brands have committed to exit the Uyghur region completely was because they care about their consumers. And we need to urge, our brands, your brands here, I keep saying our because I kept assuming that I'm still in the US, that you can force them to make changes too.
But I understand that the region has a great production, a great part of the world's tomato production. What are you going to say to American kids who can't get their ketchup?
There are Italian tomatoes that are very delicious.
I agree with you, yes.
Yeah. And also besides tomatoes, there are also other products, other sectors that are heavily...
Cotton is also...
Can you imagine 84% of the cotton production of China? Oh, the Chinese Communist.
You said, what? Can you repeat that? Repeat that. They didn't want you to hear it, to say it.
84% of the cotton production of China is from the Uyghur region. And that is 22% of the global cotton output. 95% of the solar grade polysilicon of China is from the Uyghur region. That is 45% of the global solar polysilicon products. And that number just makes me feel very nauseous every time I say it or I hear it. And also, in 2019, the U.S. Custom confiscated a shipment of 13 ton. I don't know if you have a sense of how heavy that is, of hair products, wigs. That was from Uyghur women's shaved heads from the prisons. Hair is not very heavy, we know that. If I shave everything, I don't think it's like 1 pound. Imagine 13 ton of how heavy that is. That is like heavier than fuel trucks out there. Imagine how many women have to have their heads shaved in those prisons. So hair products, food sector, tech sectors, you know, the camera. I don't know if there's a camera right here, maybe even that projector. And even in this very building, the floorings, a lot of them are made in the Uyghur region by my Uyghur brothers and sisters. And that is very concerning.
But you said, you described the situation in the US, and now there's legal procedures having been passed. And you say, is this going to somehow put Europe more in focus?
Yes,
can
because
you
products
elaborate
from
a little on that?
Yes, because it cannot enter the US market anymore. And corporations still want to be profiting. You know, they will have to have a place for those products to go. And it has been, there have been instances of goods banned in the border of the US, and they just go into Canada, go into UK, because it's just right there. Why not? Because there isn't a law there available to ban those products that are made with forced labor. I mean, technically, every Western country has a law that bans forced labor tainted goods from entering. But those laws are so weak that it does not do anything in the situation. It doesn't do much in any situation of forced labor. It doesn't matter if it's done in China or not. If it could not ban Uzbekistan forced labor, child labor cut in the past, and now finally the child labor situation in Uzbekistan is finally better. That means campaigns and actions and international interference work. It takes time, but it does work, and it takes lots of effort from different players, different group of communities, different countries, and we cannot just rely on one country or two countries to be participating in this fight together.
So there is a big job to be done by lobbying the EU, right? But you have your people in Europe, so
sorry?
You have your Uigur organization in Europe, right?
We cannot only rely on Uyghurs. We have enough traumatizing experience to endure. Let somebody else to do that for us, please.
Okay, the appeal has been passed or announced. So
we are doing so much. We have already focused on everything. We need some help. We can't just rely on Uyghurs in the diaspora. There are so little of us. And also, whenever it's proposed by us, people often think it's biased. So we need, tall Norwegian people to show up at the door and knocking and say, pass this law for us.
Well, we may look big, but we're not very good at talking. So that somehow evens it out.
You can work on that.
I wonder if perhaps we should have the audience, if there's anybody who wants to just say anything or a comment or question. Yes, please. Wait a little, the microphone, because so everybody in the cyberspace are hearing it.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I am born in Pakistan, and more than 50 years ago, Pakistan was a bridge between China and America. Henry Kissinger was sent to Peking from Islamabad in secrecy. After that, Nixon visited China. And what I think, what happened in your province it is the border with Pakistan and Afghanistan and Tashkent and Kashgar. They were afraid 25 years ago, they were afraid of jihad, like Chechnya. Like we see now what is happening now with the, Norway gave Gorbachev Peace Prize, and 13 countries got freedom. But then West think maybe we should take the consumer and the markets East Europe. That is then Putin said it is the red line, don't cross it. Now we see what is happening here in Europe. Same, I think China is afraid of what happened in like Chechnya maybe happened in your province. What do you think about that?
First of all, speaking of the jihad, speaking of Islamic extremism, whatever people call it, this concept did not exist in China before 9/11. It was a concept that was fed in by the US propaganda. I mean, I live in the US, but I'm going to say it's okay. I'm not going to be targeted by the US government like how Chinese government will target me. But it was a concept that was fed into Chinese government's mouth. Before 9/11 happened, the Chinese government had never once mentioned about Islam is bad, religious extremism, and Muslims are bad, or Uyghurs are connected to. It never had that concept before 9/11. 9/11 gave the Chinese government a perfect excuse to use to finally target us. Before that, they often described the whole region as, this is a beautiful place with beautiful girls, beautiful food, everybody's dancing, everybody's happily riding camels and horses going to living their lives. That's how they described us. If you go back to before 9/11, you will never see one single article commenting anything about Islam or religious extremism or jihad or anything of the Uyghur people. None. After 9/11, the Chinese government, finally we have an excuse to take our full control of the Uyghur region now. So I believe that's a propaganda that the Chinese government wanted to use, and it fed into, their favorite, their agenda. And second of all, no matter what could possibly be happening, it did not happen, first of all. No matter what could be possibly happening in the Uyghur region, or no matter if, let's say, the Uyghur people want to declare independence, or some people want to, have this intention or that intention. First of all, it did not happen. Therefore, the innocent people, the Chinese government doesn't have the right to lock up any single soul of the Uyghur people. What is happening in the Uyghur region is declared as genocide by many countries in the world. And there's a reason for that, because many crimes that the Chinese government had done for the Uyghur people falls into the description of genocide. And there are currently more than 1.8 million people are locked up in China, whether if it's concentration camps or prison or re-education camps or so-called vocational training schools. And I'm not using US-backed information. I'm going to be citing, oftentimes people will say, this is Western propaganda, this is US propaganda. I'm going to use Chinese government's own released statistics, so nobody can try to argue with me. The Chinese government's own state council, back in 2020, released a white paper stating themselves, every year in the Uyghur region, there are 1.29 million people each year annually are going through so-called vocational training. And according to Chinese government's own data, there are 12 million Uyghur population in the Uyghur region. Let's say all these data are true. That means more than 10% of the population are going through vocational training. Do you think that number sounds right if it's happening to any countries? 10% of the population of a region is going to vocational training. And imagine there are those 12 million, some are kids, some are very old people. So we have to also take those numbers out. Imagine what's a percentage of people in my age, who are available to work are in those so-called vocational trainings. And those are just the excuses that Chinese government use to justify their actions, because they don't want to be seen as a bad people. And of course, I also mentioned this in my book, that oftentimes the criminals or the person who commits a crime, or who are the aggressive ones, would always say, if you have not done that, I wouldn't have done this. You made me do this to you. This is often a psychological trick that people, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, that you have read it somewhere. It often is mentioned in the movie too. If you didn't make me do this, I wouldn't have been so mad. This is often a psychological trick, reversal trick that the Chinese government use, or a lot of authoritarian regimes around the world uses to justify their action. If the Uyghur people would would possibly not be doing that, then we would not have been locking up all these people and putting them into concentration camps, re-education camps, vocational training schools. If they were not so lazy, uneducated, barbaric, we wouldn't have to have provided so-called jobs for them or providing stability for them. We're erasing the extremist thoughts from their brains. I'm quoting the Chinese government now. The Chinese government claimed all the Uyghurs have minds that are, I'm trying to translate it into English, poisonous, the minds that are poisoned by extremist thoughts, and it's like a weed that needs to be cut out because it's all the Islamic, all the religious thoughts are considered extremism. But how do you define religious extremism? In China, it's also public information. I'm just using a Chinese public information. I'm not going to even use any US-backed information. There are 70 ways you can identify a religious extremism in China, in the Uyghur region. It is public information. You can Google it. You'll find it. It's a translated version. You'll find
70 ways.
70 ways. 70 ways. One of them, if you have a beard, you will be considered as religious extremism if you go to the Uyghur region. If you were
Their kings had beard.
Sorry?
Chinese kings had beard.
In the past, are they still alive? No.
The most king is called Kingdom only Moscow.
But it's
Moscow in Peking.
but it's not there anymore. And I mean, you see Mr. Chairman Xi Jinping's face is very smooth and shiny, and
The foreign minister of China, in April, he was in Islamabad in Islamic conference. 50 Muslim countries were there represented. In April last month, the Chinese foreign minister was there.
and
Yeah,
so they attended a conference.
yes.
So did they bring the Islam back to the Uyghur people?
No, Prophet Muhammad said 1400 years ago, seek knowledge if in China, you have to go to China. That is why Pakistan first foreign minister of Pakistan was Sir Muhammad Zafrullah Khan. He was a Ahmadi Muslim. He was also British ambassador to China when British India was, only for 6 months. Then Pakistan in 1947, he became foreign minister of Pakistan. So his policies was due to that we made bridge between China and America. And we tried to be bridge even to Russia. But
Well,
then Afghanistan and all that conflict, but what happened now in Iraq, Libya, every Arab Muslim.
Well, thank you for your history lessons, and we're running out of time. That's why, because it's really these perspectives are very good.
The
No, I
solution
think
for Chinese government needs
I
to
will
stop.
leave that to her. But perhaps we have one more short question or comment. Yes, please, Aftenposten.
Thank you for this. It's very, very interesting, and thanks for the conversation earlier today as well. Just now that we're in the House of Literature, and I just wanted to ask you a question regarding labels and words. I noticed you used the term the Uyghur region, or the Uyghur region. You don't say Xinjiang, you don't say East Turkestan. And you talk about concentration camps as also a term that's often difficult to use because of the Holocaust, obviously, in Europe. There's the discussion of whether or not to use the term genocide about what's happening. How important do you think these labels and words are when we discuss this topic?
In the US, there is a term that is very famous, politically correct. So let me first explain the Uyghur region, and let me get one by one. Let's break it down. First, what does Xinjiang mean? Xin means new, Jiang means territory. New territory. What does it mean? This word only existed very recently. It was given by the Chinese government. The land itself was not called Xinjiang in the past. New territory reminds the Uyghur people a very awful history of being occupied and colonized. And would you like that? No. So Uyghur people, especially in the diaspora, they prefer to avoid this term, using this term, Xinjiang. I did use it in the beginning of my advocacy because I wasn't sure what is a better term. And later on, I was more adapted to the word the Uyghur region, because it is it is a region where a majority of the population are Uyghurs, and according to the Chinese government, it's called Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. So they admitted it is for Uyghur people, right? And that is why I prefer to use this term. The Uyghurs in the diaspora, many of whom also prefer to use the term East Turkestan, which is a historical name for the region as well. And my preference is the Uyghur region. That's the term that I often use. It's politically correct that I tend to not put my father and my rest of my relatives more in trouble because of that. And that is why I use that term. And the Chinese government often claims whoever used the term East Turkestan as separatists. And my father was charged as separatist. I try not to avoid. I try not to use this term East Turkestan in public, because then it will be a perfect, beautiful evidence that the Chinese government can use at some whatever conference, or when they want to consider a second appeal for my father. Then they're like, oh, see, his entire family is as separatist, extremist, and I told you so. It's gonna be used perfectly for the Chinese government. That's why I try to avoid using this term, even though it has a historic symbolic meaning for this term. And many Uyghurs in the diaspora really would prefer to use this term. And to be politically correct, I would use the word the Uyghur region. And for the other word that you mentioned about concentration camps, I'd like to clarify that not all the detention facilities in the Uyghur region are concentration camps. There are re-education camps that are for re-education purposes, but they're all very similar. Let me first list out what are some of the facilities there are. There are prison camps. There's also, I don't know how to translate laogai. Prison farms?
Correction or reform facilities.
Yeah, there's so many translations here.
What is it called?
But take one of them, yeah. What?
Labor through education through labor.
Labor through
education through labor.
Education through labor. And there's forced labor camps. There are forced labor transfers. That is not a camp. There are also detention centers. And there are also, did I miss anything? If I'm...
There are two types, daily re-education camp and
full-time re-education camp. And also, there are, for re-education camps, usually it's from, if you bribe the guards, your family bribes the guard, you can get out within a few months. If you don't bribe them, you can stay in there for 2 years after you complete your studies in those re-education centers. And if you don't pass the test, because it's a school, right? If you don't pass the test, they will decide where you go next, whether you go to the prison or the forced labor camps, or you have different routes that you could go. So the concentration camp is the ones where a lot of the detainees for what is it called? Survivors who got out of those, who have testified. You will see from their testimonies, those descriptions really overlaps with our memories or our knowledge of what concentration camps are like from the 1940s.
Well, I think this should sufficiently show that there are many methods for oppressing your people.
Yes, there are many methods.
And I think our time is about ready up, but she's here on the occasion of the human, what is it, freedom?
Oslo Freedom Forum.
Oslo Freedom Forum.
Yeah.
So the PEN Club has been using this opportunity, but I would also give the last word to you since you're here.
Yeah, so first of all, for anyone who is interested in attending the Oslo Freedom Forum, feel free to let me know after this event. I can give you a code where you can get a free ticket, so you can get in. And second, for anyone who is interested in getting the book, feel free to reach out to me. I will give you a link, or I can give you the contact info from my publisher and my father's books publisher. You can get books from them. Third of all, if you're interested in learning more about forced labor, feel free to get in touch with me as well. Just get in touch with me, and I'm happy to answer any questions on any of the things or that we mentioned today, or the things that we failed to mention today. So feel free to reach out on social media or via email, just jewher.ilham@gmail.com. But if you want to, like, if you for people who care about, who cares about their identity safety, don't email that Gmail account because it often gets hacked. So don't email me very sensitive questions that you are afraid of being hacked by the Chinese government for. Yesterday I just received a abnormal login attempt. So it's very common, but if that is not like so sensitive, feel free to reach out via that email or just reach out to me on social media. I am very responsive. It could take days, but I always get back to people.
Well, thank you so much. And you came with this long list, but I think you should also present a little list to us, what we could do for you. So don't forget that.
Yes.
But not now, but I mean...
wait, let me see my long list.
Well, you have people here whom you can forward that to your,
yes.
your friends here.
Oh, one last thing. Please visit the website. Is everybody writing it down yet? It's called End Uighur Forced Labor. Labor is spelled the British way, the right way, the LABOUR.org. Please visit that website, and uighurforcedlabor.org. There are different sections of the website where you can learn what are some of the brands that are complicit in forced labor, including apparel, and you will learn anything about forced labor through this website. And there's also a section about, it's called Related Actions, where you can participate in campaigns and different action items that you can do to help with this cause. That is not only forced labor focused, that is focused on, passing a bill, talking to, there's like petition for your government officials, and there's like a petitions, email campaign to Hugo Boss, to Nike, to all this Apple, all these things. So please go visit the website. So from this website, if you can't find the answer, then you can find me. Yeah.
Well, that was the last word, but I also like to turn your attention to the first part of this meeting with all the faiths. And when you see the faces and the introduction we did get, it really comes alive. And it's I think it's also in no way I don't want to belittle your ability to plead for your cause and describe it in a very lively and convincing manner. But I think also the faces and the names are very important to add to this story. So hopefully this could be a little drop in, well, what would that be? Not in the big water pool, but something that's uplifting. Or a little rocket, let's say, call it that. So thank you, and good luck in your performance in participation in the Oslo Freedom Forum.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for taking the precious time of your day to come to listen to my long talk. I tend to talk a lot, so sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's a very good ability your father gave you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from the PEN side?
No, just that we have a lot to follow up on, as you know, and also thank the Norwegian Uigurkomiteen, Abduweli, for his really very commitment to the cause and getting in touch with the PEN Norway some years ago now, and also the good cooperation. And I know that we get all the information we need from him to follow up on these issues, and also the poetry and the poets. Very important. So thank you all for coming, and thank you, Joel. It was so nice very, very good to hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And here's the book. Just.
Thank you.
you.